Well, good afternoon, and welcome to this week's weekly check in live here on YouTube and live on Patreon. And this week, we're going to be looking at one of my favorite stories in the Bible. I absolutely love Palm Sunday. And even though I'll be singing some Palm Sunday songs this Sunday on A Moment of Hope, and I wanted to give Palm Sunday a little extra attention this year because it just feels like we need to be celebrating things and we need to be shouting Hosanna right now. There's just a lot going on in the world, and Palm Sunday feels like it feels restorative. And even though we kind of know the end of the story, we also know the end of the story, right? So, um, that, or at least I should say, I do. I know the end of the story and I know the very end of the story. And for those of you who don't know, it's a happy ending. But the story starts, of course, with Jesus's life. He was born into poverty and was a refugee with his parents as a child. And when he was coming into his formative years, he was preaching in the temple and doing things that really were rebellious. Let's say it like that. They were pretty rebellious. He ran away from his parents at one point, and they found him preaching in the temple. And he was telling people to do very radical things like sell all their possessions and follow him. And I think so so that's the story. Okay, that's kind of where the story starts. And what happened was that a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of people felt really uncomfortable with what Jesus was suggesting and declaring. And so there were people who felt threatened by his message and also felt threatened by his followers. So the story of Holy Week, which we're going to talk about next week, is that part of the story. But what happens in today's story is, again, just a bit of a celebration before things get really hunkered down in Holy Week. And so I want to read to you from Matthew 21. I have my new inclusive Bible today, and I'm so excited. I wanted to read just the first paragraph of the preface for this Bible because I think it is so important to think about the language and the words that we use. And so this says, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names can never hurt me," says the old proverb. We know now that that is a lie. Words can wound, alienate, and degrade people. Language can also affirm and express love. Care for language is a show of concern for people and a revelation of the attitudes of the speaker. So, as you've heard me say on A Moment of Hope, and words do matter, and it's important how we talk about God in terms of gender, and Jesus in terms of gender, and all kinds of ways in which the Bible has been translated into a problematic style of language. And what, again, we know now is that the translations that we've had are pretty abysmal. They actually don't honor the real words of what was originally written. And I can talk lots and lots about that because I'm very passionate about it. But I want to get to our reading. And so our reading today is from Matthew 21. It's just verses 1 through 11. And so it says, "As they approached Jerusalem, entering Bethphage at the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent off two disciples with the instructions, 'Go into the village straight ahead of you, and immediately you will find a tethered donkey with her colt standing beside her. Untie them and lead them back to me. If anyone questions you, say, the rabbi needs them. Then they will let them go at once. This came about to fulfill what was said through the prophet, tell the daughter of Zion, your sovereign comes to you without display, riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a beast of burden. So the disciples went off and did what Jesus had ordered. They brought the donkey and her colt. And after they laid their cloaks on the animals, Jesus mounted and rode toward the city. Great crowds of people spread their cloaks on the road, while some began to cut branches from the trees and lay them along the path. The crowds, those who went in front of Jesus and those who followed, were all shouting, Hosanna to the heir of the house of David. Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Most High. Hosanna in the highest. As Jesus entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred into its depths, demanding, who is this? And the crowd kept answering, this is the prophet Jesus from Nazareth in Galilee. So I just love the whole image of Jesus riding, and it says here, not on just any old donkey, right? But actually on a colt, on a small donkey. It says the foal of a beast of burden, which kind of indicates to me that this animal has not become a beast of burden yet. And so carrying Jesus into the city would not have been a burden. And I kind of like that imagery. And I love the imagery of the people taking the palm branches off of the trees and waving them. And maybe like we would wave sparklers today and throwing their cloaks on the ground. And it's just such a wonderful, wonderful celebratory energy and image. And I really appreciate how this verse, says the song, Hosanna to the heir to the house of David. Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Most High. Hosanna in the highest. I just think that's so wonderful. And of course, this Sunday on A Moment of Hope, and I'll be singing a Hosanna and talking more about Palm Sunday. So that's kind of all I want to say about this. I'm deeply curious about this idea that Jesus rode a colt. And it does say that it says they laid their cloaks on the animals, plural, and Jesus mounted and rode toward the city. So I'm just curious about what it means for Jesus to be riding on something that isn't a beast of burden yet, riding on an animal that is, for all intents and purposes, a child. And as a children's liberation theologian, that is particularly intriguing to me. So I've been researching this verse and can't find much, or if anything, about the fact that this is stating that there was a colt that Jesus was riding on. So I'm going to be doing more research. But again, that's why I wanted to sort of stretch this passage this week and just kind of bring it out today, and then invite more thinking and conversation about it. So thank you for joining me today for this weekly check-in. I want to just take a quick, slow, deep breath. Let's do that again. Again, thank you for joining me. I will be on IG Live tomorrow at 3:00 with Ashley D. Tarbert. And Ashley and I are going to talk about her ministry as an artistic minister and her work with Beloved Arise, and which I just saw someone refer to Beloved Arise as an inclusive alternative to Young Life. So I'm interested to hear more about that from Ashley. And we're just going to talk about non-traditional ministry. And then tomorrow night at 7, I will be a guest on Faith and Capital. And you can look that up on Instagram. It's a podcast that talks about our faith and as it relates to capitalism. And so I'll be talking about children's liberation theology and how that plays into the capitalism conversation and, of course, the faith conversation as well. So that's tomorrow at 7 o'clock on Faith and Capital, the podcast Faith and Capital. Sunday, 11 o'clock, a very exciting special Palm Sunday, a moment of hope and then we go into Holy Week, and I'll have some announcements on Sunday about some special things happening during Holy Week, so stay tuned for all of that. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you are well. I hope you are feeling the energy that I feel from this time of people getting vaccinated and the weather getting warm and there being more light in the day. Take all of that positive energy and internalize it in yourself and then share it. Because I think that's how we're going to get all through this together. Have a great week.